So yeah, hello everyone. I'm Roni Jokinen, Director of Operations at Nitro Games, and I will be talking a bit in the short 15 minutes about our journey and the kind of principles we have come up with towards building quality into the game itself with kind of better and excellent engineering and independent teams. So what this talk is about is everyone understanding what we are doing and why, explicitly understanding of our production systems, how we do stuff, because there's always processes. They might be implicit or explicit. Optimizing for learning and outcomes, as that's really the only thing that can make us better. Holding high standards as the whole team, regardless of any kind of failures we have, where we can learn more, and each team member owning their own work. So we develop that kind of accountability, how we leverage or think about leveraging everyone's skills and perspective to bring better outcomes, and benefits of such things provide for the company and the team itself. Of course, as last, we will be going through a bit about what kind of things we have already done, not in any kind of particular order, but still, let's get on to it. So the kind of first principle is the more it affects your work, the more you should have control over the decisions. While you can have more structure and kind of like a hierarchical organization model, I feel like the leader type of model where you push down most of the decisions to the people who are actually living with both with the consequences, and it affects their work on a daily basis. It always makes sense to get them to do those decisions, be it bad or good, but getting the support they need and learning from those experiences, regardless of the outcomes of those decisions. And one other thing is the team's maturity and individuals' maturity of being self-reliant and being able to make those decisions on our own. I feel like that the first thing that we do when we have more of a, let's say, top-down structure, or we have more stronger leadership, the first thing we should be thinking about, how do we empower those people in the team to do their own decisions? But ultimately, if you are there to empower them, it's kind of still the leadership model with hierarchy. So the end goal is to always get to, once they are ready, let them take that ownership of everything instead of you giving it to them. And some principles we have come around with around the teamwork, independence, and accountability. There's a lot of things to read here, of course, but some things we have come up with that, of course, everyone has to understand why we're doing what we're doing. And of course, then comes the what. But the why often becomes more important, as that allows them to better make decisions based on the kind of values we have as a company or as a team. And for example, we have some things which have explicitly defined the kind of soft and both hard values on what we are expected to do and why we should be doing that. Of course, you can't have any one person, for example, QA or team, just accountable for everyone's quality, but everyone should be accountable both for their own work, but also keeping other people accountable that the work that they create is up to the quality that we expect as a team and as a company. And the kind of thinking that everyone is a leader is a very cornerstone of all of this, to let them do as much decisions as possible, as I said earlier. But we do tend to want to have some kind of guardrails to prevent any kind of major accidents happening. For example, you might have a budget in use which you can use freely, but the guardrails at that point is the limit of that budget. And if you want to go outside of that, you need to get some type of buy-in outside of the team itself. The team should be cross-functional as possible and have no major knowledge gap, and prefer the kind of T-shaped people or generalists as team members, as the whole team has to be in a way full stack, being able to cover as much as possible of the thing that we're working on. So if our teams are based on function that is not fulfilling the requirement. So having a QA team on its own is maybe not the best possible like communication or team structure, but we would want to have one QA, for example, embedded in each team, and artists, so and programmers, backend, front-end client, someone, so that the whole team can execute on everything that we need to do as a team. Experimentation is kind of the one other thing, both from the game side, the getting information from analytics and experimenting on different solutions to bring the numbers up, but both from process point of view as well. So if something is not working, we should change something and experiment what we could get working. One other personal favorite is kind of don't tolerate problems, but fix them. So beats any kind of type of problem, like being willing to fix those problems on a system level is kind of the thing that keeps moving us forward. Of course, like everyone should be in the team also have time for that, thinking about what kind of things we want to experiment on, and then how do we learn new things so we can fulfill our roles and the team's role much better. I very much subscribe to the idea that we do always have processes. While some people might think of it as a curse word, I think most of them are just implicit. I believe that the more we can make them explicit, the better. It doesn't have to be that we write them down very explicitly if that's not the preferred way, but we should be discussing that inside the team, like how do we want to do this and what do we expect from each other? Because if there's no clear expectation, it's hard to work in a right way. And well, these kind of principles help with the kind of decision making we want to support. So some things about goals and bounded context prioritization and planning. I think the overall thing is that when we build a team and we want to have the cross functionality, we need to split the context of what the team is working on very clearly, so that, for example, let's say that our team works directly on the store, or we are, let's say we are, for example, responsible for social features. The more you can have own P&L and own like KPIs for each team, and the less communication you need to do outside of the team in any kind of synchronous manner, the better, because otherwise you're getting like high cognitive load and you need to understand a lot more than one person can handle or one team can handle. So the team topology issue and kind of communication structure of your teams and like inter-team communication is like a key to figuring out how to like leverage independence a lot. And some technical people can recognize this like from microservice architecture and that. But yeah, very clear understanding of the goals, KPIs, makes the processes more explicit from the implicit side. Understanding the different types of work we have available in our system so that we can have a more stable delivery, trying to like minimize the amount of unplanned work, for example, bugs and the kind of firefighting that many people might have to deal with on a regular basis. And also, while do we want to look at and optimally work on one thing at a time, we do want to plan for the future, but going too much into the detail before we have any kind of like feedback on the from the market testing or any kind of internal testing, playtest cloud or whatnot, the details should be kept to a minimum. Otherwise, we might get a lot of hung up on the like we already decided what we're gonna do, and now we're just gonna execute. But instead, like talk to the customers, discuss with your team, try to find any way possible to gather more information so your decisions, what we are actually building, which is expensive, have higher leverage. So maximizing the work not done is kind of the key here. I do think that some people might not think this, but I firmly believe that video games are software, and the same rules apply, even though there are some differences there. And yes, you can't, for example, automatically test experiences, but more of that bit later. Keeping work in progress, so the kind of things you have ongoing which are not ready, is one key, and the other one is try to deliver something small on a constant basis instead of in like big batches of a feature. And the benefits are that you can get something which you can test, you can maybe put it up to the market, to Playtest Cloud, you can test it inside your team. You also de-risk those kind of investments you put into the development process at that point. Continuous everything. Some people might have heard of continuous delivery and continuous integration. My thinking is that whatever we can do continuously, so reducing kind of the batch size, so doing things smaller, doing small experiments, doing small additions safely. So whenever we do make mistakes, they are much easier to fix, because the easier we find some issues, the easier and less costly and the less effort it takes to actually redeem ourselves from that situation. So my personal opinion on this is that any changes which are not integrated, like at least on a daily basis to some kind of trunk of your version control system, is not really continuous. But the smaller the better. There's like, it's not binary. The smaller you can go, usually the better. Of course, having everything playable right after each change is preferable way, but of course there are different constraints for different kind of projects and teams, and you have to work with that, whatever you start with, and like keep on improving that. And that's the other point, is that you don't want to make these kind of big transformations. Usually you want to prefer this kind of improvements over time, which accumulate as you go and increase the leverage of your work and the kind of decisions you make. And this is going to need a lot of like different kind of feedback loops. So the more the number of the feedback loops, both from second to second to hours to days to months and years, the more you can put in place, and preferably automatic. But some things are just human experience type of things for games, for example. So putting different kinds of feedback loops in place to understand better your technical quality, but like the experience of your game is key, and kind of like preventive / proactive thing to improve and building quality into the product. So what we want to do is to focus a lot on the creative task instead of like doing most things manually. And that means that all the tedious things that we do on day-to-day basis is something that we want to try to automate. I feel like that a lot of people think that speed and quality are odds, but I think you can't actually deliver speed unless you have the quality, because we're actually trying to maximize the adaptability, both like game design and like game perspective, but also like the technical side of things. So if you do create something with quality, it's much easier to change. Therefore, whenever you want to maximize the amount of like experimentation you do, you can do it much easier if the cost of change is kept low, and like reducing the batch sizes and the amount of things that you're working at the same time, meaning work in progress, is kind of the key here. But the communication thing is one other thing that you want to reduce the amount of dependencies, especially you have outside of the team. Of course, inside the team, you want to share everything as much as possible. And that's why, as I said previously, all the team topologies and things that happen inside the team, and what kind of knowledge you have and what kind of skills you have in the team is very, very important. So a lot of things related to this is actually not even a technical problem, even if you're working on a technical things, but they're actually communication structures and like your team topology. Also, like personally, I didn't want to keep on development because working on bad quality is kind of energy draining for me personally. Seems like I'm running out of time, so I'm just gonna put some of the things that we have done now recently to make our quality better. And this is not an exhaustive list, but this is something that we have done in the past 2 years or so. I guess that's it. Thank you. By the way, we're hiring. So if you're a C++ developer or UI UX person, tech lead for Unity project, or producer, please do contact us. Thank you.
Thank you, Roni. Thank you, Roni. Let's take a couple of questions. And I would like to encourage everyone to visit the Nitro Games stands, virtual stands. And if you have more questions for Roni, you can also post the questions there. And the guys will be going live tomorrow. But here's a question. What is the creative process like at Nitro when it comes to creating the new game?
Okay, so previously we didn't have a prototyping team, but now we're establishing one. So what do we believe is that you can't design a game which is going to be attractive to a lot of people with good KPIs, and you can't before you actually test it. So it's kind of like quantity over quality here in a way, that at the early stages, you want to test out the different ideas a lot. And this gets back to the experimentation thing. So you might have some good ideas, people throw them around. We do have times when we propose new game ideas. We do juggle them together in like the coffee room or the water cooler. But generally, where most things would be coming from is testing things out on a very quick emphasis on doing something first quick, test out the idea. If it doesn't work out, just throw it away. If it works out, throw it away what you built and then build it better. So again, experimentation a lot. I think that's the short description.
Thank you, Roni. Thank you, Roni. And yeah, if you have more questions, as I said, please visit the Nitro Games stand, and you can also meet the Nitro Games team tomorrow live. Thank you, Roni.
Thank you.